Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love talking about? Games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. But that's not me, and that's not the 2,549 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. Yep, we're digging this well until it gets dry. I gotta tell you, did I expect my channel to finally start growing because of the Xbox 360? Not at all. Especially if you told me 10 years ago, or 9 years ago, however, we're coming up on 10 years here. But yeah, this is insane, guys. Thank you all so much. We've hit almost 400 subs this month. Are you kidding me? Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Xbox 360. And to celebrate, I got 12 more games that you should probably pick up before they get more expensive. Let's check it out.
There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, so let's get rolling this week with a game that I picked up for a steal at my local swap meet. So what's funny enough, I saw RNG Gamer do a video that morning talking about this game. I went and looked it up on eBay just to see what it was going for, around $70. I've seen this game go up to around 100, 120, and I found it within 5 minutes of walking into this place for $15, and yes, I did talk a few dollars off, and that is Velvet Assassin. Now, I actually was able to pop this bad boy in and check it out. It is a stealth game, and it is also a realistic stealth game where you play as probably, I don't know, a 140-pound woman, 130-pound woman back during World War II, and you go around stabbing people in the back, slitting their throat, but you are a glass cannon. If they find you, it only takes 1 or 2 hits to kill you. Now, it's got a generous restart system. You know, you save periodically. It's very much a game made in the late 2000s. I want to say it came out 2009, but it takes place in World War II Germany. You play as, I think it's a French, spy. And there's this weird mind trip where you're constantly seeing the spy in bed with morphine, and there's like drug trips, and you know, it's very much one of the abilities you have is that if you are seen, you can pop morphine and then you go into your underwear and can go and kill the person from a frontal attack. Otherwise, you always have to sneak up on them, and you can stick to the shadows. When you're in the shadows, you get outlined in purple, hence the Velvet Assassin. And it's just a very interesting and fun game. It's not worth the huge pricing, but I gotta tell you, even with the wonkiness of the hitboxes, it's a 12-stage game. It's fun. You know what's funny? I think one of the things I'm really finding I enjoy a lot about the 360 era too is it's not chock full of gaming bloat. So you get in, there's 12 stages, you can anticipate it. I like it when I can beat a game in a weekend. I don't necessarily want a game that I can play endlessly, and everything now is designed to either make you play endlessly or to add enough filler content so that you can justify the price tag. And I don't want that. I like a game like this where realistically I could probably beat it in 1 to 2 days, you know, a couple of 5-6 hour play sessions. It's also pretty tough. You know, I put it on just easy, normal mode, not easy mode. They only had 2 modes. I put it on normal mode, and still I found myself dying left and right. But man, is this an expensive one. It's just exploded. So check your local game stores, check your pawn shops, find it. If you can find it cheap, I think the cheapest I found it, as I've been scouring all the results, was around $56. And yeah, it's a fun one. It's a fun one, and I really do recommend it. Now, one that I also picked up at that swap meet, which, well, I did one pass. So I found this game listed for, I want to say 30, and I believe I talked him down to 25, which was a steal, and that is X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition. Now, my buddy Mike Tendo loves this game, says it's one of the greatest movie tie-in games ever made. Just so you know, there is no other version on the Xbox 360 other than the Uncaged Edition. I think it originally was on the PS3. But this game has exploded as well. I think I've seen it going regularly for $70, $80, $100 with the new Deadpool 3 coming out. You know, Wolverine is huge. It's funny, I remember when the movie came out, everyone hated it, but then to find out that the game is very good is cool. I've the best Wolverine game, I believe is what my friend said. So it's one that I'm looking forward to checking out. This one has the alternate Wolverine suit available. So it just looks like dumb. You know, it's probably got quick time events. It's probably got things like that. But still, finding a solid Wolverine game to play with Hugh Jackman that looks like Hugh Jackman, I'm in. I'll check it out. I vaguely remember when this came out, but I just, I'm just not the biggest fan. I mean, I love Wolverine and all that, but I always was a Gambit guy myself, and Cyclops. I liked Gambit and Cyclops, and they so pushed Wolverine, and then Wolverine's thing of being a short guy. Clearly, Hugh Jackman is not. But anyways, though that one is one you should definitely try and find and pick up. Now, here's one that I recently learned of. I'm a huge fan of the original, and then I found out there was a sequel, and I thought that was it. And then as I was looking for more sequels of games that I never wasn't aware of, I found out there not only was a third game, there's a fourth game. And the fourth game was Xbox 360 exclusive over here. They actually had a PS3 version that came out, I want to say, in Australia. And that is Destroy All Humans, Path of the Furon. Yep, Furon. And it more or less is just more of the same Destroy All Humans formula. This one takes place in the 70s. I believe it's got 5 different areas you can explore. And, it's the zaniness, the humor in these games are always fun. It's one of those things that does overstay its welcome. But going through and just, sending the probe off the humans or all these various different things and watching them turn into zombies or just die horrible 70s, originally 60s and 50s inspired deaths is always a good time, especially when you're this little gray alien dude that looks exactly like you would imagine an alien looks like. This one I found for $20. It's one of the first ones. Once again, this is one of the ones I picked up before I really started going for it because I was looking to get sequels on this. And then as I realized, that's why I picked up Batman Arkham Origins as well. And then I started to see, oh my god, these prices are going up on everything. That's the one you can find. I have all 4 of them now, so that's one of the things I wanted to have the whole series to talk about in the sequels video. But yes, Destroy All Humans, Path of the Furon. Not on anything else as far as I know, and an Xbox exclusive, 360 exclusive here in the West. Now, as I always like to throw in a few oddballs here, these aren't necessarily rare and uncommon, but I will still want to give you some suggestions of stuff you can pick up. Because you know what? I am not some uncle who's never played games. I know, what a weird comment. It's funny, I usually handle comments pretty well, but man, being told that I don't look like a gamer or someone who plays games or collects, and I'm just someone's uncle, I don't know why that ticked me off so much. I'm usually pretty good at not taking that, but man, and I'm sure, and I know the guy who said it didn't mean it with any ill intent, but man, talk about something that really irked me. But yes, a game that I'd highly recommend picking up. It's on everything. It's not just on the 360, but I really enjoyed playing it on the 360. And that's Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So this was the last Assassin's Creed to come out on the 360. It came out at the same time as Assassin's Creed Rogue, which was only on the 360 at the time. I think they had a Switch re-release recently. But Black Flag was cool because Black Flag allows you to not... And basically, this is when Assassin's Creed really went off the rails, so... They were in the Ezio stuff, they had the Desmond stuff. They came out with Assassin's Creed 3, which I really liked, and one of the reasons I really liked Assassin's Creed 3 is it changed up the scenery. It wasn't always the same, Mediterranean or, got all these kind of architecture started getting samey. This one was out in the woods and the forest, and you got these cool sections where you could control boat and naval warfare. And I remember playing it, I was thinking, man, how cool would it be if they made a game just around this? And then lo and behold, the next Assassin's Creed to come out was Black Flag, where it was more of a pirate simulator with an Assassin's Creed flavor text put on top of it. In all honesty, I thought if they had just made this a new IP, it'd probably be one of the best games of last generation. But if you've avoided it, if you don't want to play Assassin's Creed, if you're worried about having to follow the story, let me put that to bed. You can play Black Flag very easily and ignore the rest of the thing. Desmond's not even in it. The whole storyline gets so convoluted. I always find the best part of Assassin's Creed games have nothing to do with the overarching series storylines, and this one definitely fits that bill. And you know what's funny is they then announced Skull and Bones, which I thought was going to be a really fun game. You know, it's a quadruple A game. That when it finally came out, it was so like Ubisoft just can't get anything right. Just take this Assassin's Creed Black Flag and make Skull and Bones that without the Assassin's Creed, and you got yourself a brand new franchise. But no, they ruined it. Now that's kind of the end, which was a fun thing. You control ships. You can fire on ships out in the water. It reminded me of an old game called Pirates I used to play on the PC. Not that Pirates, not Sid Meier's. It was like some stupid one I downloaded and was not nearly as good. Maybe it was. I don't know. Anyways, Black Flag, another good one to pick up and check out. And that one's dirt cheap, $5, $6. And it's definitely backwards compatible, I believe. Okay, here's one that I have danced around picking up for years. After I played Darksiders, I remember hearing that this was another game in that vein, or more like God of War, so it was very much criticized for being too much like God of War, and I feel like now that we've gotten farther beyond, more and more people are starting to talk about how good this game is, and that is Dante's Inferno. So it takes place, or not takes place, it's based on the Divine Comedy Dante's Inferno with the 7 circles of hell, all the different things you have to go through and fight. I don't know much about the game, to be honest. I remember seeing it and thinking it looked like God of War with a scythe, which isn't a bad thing by any means. That's not a bad thing at all. And one of those ones that was always, yeah, I should pick that up. And then it's funny, even in looking and doing this video today, I realized it was made by Visceral Games. This was the game that came out after Dead Space. And funnily enough, had I had played Dead Space when it was current, which I didn't, because I didn't have, when Dead Space came out, I was still playing World of Warcraft. So I definitely would have picked up Dante's Inferno probably day one, because I loved Dead Space so much. It's made by the same people. And it's cool going back now, and almost like when I really learned the Super NES, PS1, all those libraries, I feel like that's starting to happen now with Xbox 360, where it's like, oh wow, that was made by Insomniac, that was made by Visceral, that was made by all these companies that used to be good. And speaking of companies that used to be good, and I'd say, I don't know, they just, even this game when it came out wasn't great, but I remember it was a launch title for the 360, and it seemed like Rare had come back to form with Perfect Dark Zero. And this is the Steelbook case. I found this at a thrift store, and I see things sometimes where this version of the game is extremely collectible, and then other times where you can find it dirt cheap. So I don't really know which is which. I don't really care. But as far as gameplay goes, I really enjoyed the first Perfect Dark, and I remember playing this at my friend's house when it came out, and it was unfortunate that Resident Evil 4 had come out maybe 4 or 5 months before this game. And so when this came out, it didn't have the cachet of Halo. It didn't have sort of that going for it. It just felt like I was playing, a Halo ripoff. And then instead of playing a Halo ripoff, I just play Halo. Or if I wanted to play a first-person type shooter game, oh, look at this cool behind-the-back perspective Resident Evil came out with. And even though it had Joanna Dark behind it, which I loved Perfect Dark, and I loved Rare because of Golden, obviously, I wanted to check it out. It just didn't have the same cachet. And most people, we're not willing to take the risk on the 360, and for good reason, after the Red Ring of Death stuff all came up. So by the time I finally did get an Xbox 360 in 2008, already this game was 3 years old, and I was playing the Call of Duties, the Halos. I'm not going to go backwards and play a first-person shooter. But now I am. Now I will, because there's not much coming out that I really care for. So this is one that I would check out, and I remember playing it briefly and thinking it was sufficient. And if it's anything like the one on the N64 with the zany story and the cool alternate weapons, and it's still Rare when they had some of the old team there before everyone left, and now we're getting games like, Sea of Thieves. That's what it is, Sea of Thieves, which I have played briefly because it wasn't that great. Okay, so another one that was a game I did pick up. Now, I have seen people in the comments mention it, and I would agree. I don't see this one come up ever. I've watched so many of these Xbox 360 videos, and I've seen one person mention it, and it was in a video where he mentioned like 40 different games. And I was able to find a copy of it that is sun faded on the front, but luckily the side is not, and that is Never Dead. So this is a Konami game that came out in 2012. I was completely unfamiliar with it. I did manage to pop this in and check it out. It already felt really tight and really nice. And the gimmick of this game is that you play as a character who can get attacked, and instead of having a health bar or a certain amount of hits before you die, well, you do have a certain amount of hits before you die, but you lose limbs. So you'll get your head hit off, and then you have to roll around and get your body back. Or if you wait a certain amount of time, it'll just allow you to grow it back. Same thing with your arms, same thing with your legs. And sometimes the puzzle solving in the environment requires you to do that. And I will say, the beginning of the game, so it's you and then you have a female companion. So you're an immortal. I'm not sure why. I didn't get too much into the story. There's like these weird immortal beings and everything. And then she's a cop who is not. So she's human. And so like the game starts off already. She has something fall on her back and she's like, oh God, already on my back again. Like there's just this, it's funny, this amount of almost frat house humor or childish humor that I found a little cringeworthy back in 2009, 2010. Now that we've gotten so far away from it where everything is so serious or art house or it feels like we either have something that's, a Marvel movie kind of humor or something that's so safe or introspective or Celeste where it's so deep that we don't just get this stupid humor anymore where it's just like, oh my God, like it was actually entertaining because it's been 5, 7, 10 years since I've seen that in a game, which especially during this area, I mean, look at Shadows of the Damned, like it's everywhere. And it's almost it's ironic that it's a breath of fresh air. But gameplay wise, I did get a little bit, there's also a sword you can use. And so you have gunplay and then you have sword play. The sword requires you to pull it out and then use the right stick to swing. And that's not great. That's not great. And then the enemies don't really give much feedback when you hit them. So I can see it getting a little bullet spongy and a little tedious, but it is a unique concept and it is fun. So this is one, if you can find it, snatch it up. It is not being talked about that much. I even saw someone in my comments mentioning, yeah, it was hard to find it for $20, $30. I can easily see this one going up as more and more people get familiar with it because it's one of those games where it's not just rare and bad like Darkest of Days. I can see this being rare and, surprisingly decent. Better than decent. So I'd pick that one up. Okay. So another one that's just kind of common, but I want to bring it up as well, as this one's an unusual circumstance, which I wasn't even aware until I pulled it out. But I love the Batman games on the 360. My personal favorite one is still Arkham Asylum. This is the Platinum Hits that apparently is now able to be worked on 3D TVs and came with 4 extra challenge maps, which I don't remember this. And I'm sure one of the things that will make this collectible is that it has the damn 3D glasses in it. So I bet those are hard to come by, but maybe not. Maybe you can still buy them brand new. Either way, I would highly recommend picking up this game just in general. It's one of the best games on the console. It's one of my, probably, God, if not my favorite game on the console, one of them. I really love the tone. I like the fact that it's isolated. It almost has the Metal Gear Solid feel as far as you're trapped in a singular location. You're not going against an open world. It pretty much was the high point of that pre-open world game design. Before every action-adventure third-person game really went off into that either different zones or different worlds or different things where you just have this big central location. The combat is frenetic and exceptional. And the interactions with the enemies are fun. As someone who I've always enjoyed Batman, I'm a Spider-Man and a Batman guy as far as superheroes go, and mainly the Batman one was because I saw the couple of the movies. Spider-Man '94 animated series really made me a fan. And obviously the Tobey Maguire movies, but I loved playing as this. This one really was the first superhero game that made you feel like you were in a superhero game. And it's just a lot of fun. One I highly recommend everyone check out. Alright, so this is one that, yes, the game is fun, but more that what comes on this game is what I'm recommending because it's hard to find elsewhere physically. And that is Plants vs. Zombies. Now, also, this game comes included with a physical version of Peggle. And Peggle is a really fun game where, almost like Pachinko, or you drop balls randomly into like a playing field, and it tries and eliminates all the different colored balls. And I originally played it on my buddy's iPhone, much in the same time that Angry Birds was taking the world by fire. Peggle was kind of the next one. And I got obsessed with it. I loved playing it. I loved getting the biggest score. It's one of those reasons, like, games that make mobile games make sense. Like, something that's a pick up and play experience. And it's only physically available there. Plants vs. Zombies is a fun game. And there's a third game on this called Zuma, which I don't care for. I'm not going to recommend it, but definitely pick that up just to have a hard copy of Peggle. And there's a hard copy. There's Peggle 2, which, has anyone ever played that? I'd love to know if that's worth checking out too. All right. In the last video, I mentioned getting the physical copy of the arcade hits that has Geometry Wars 2 on it. And then I was unaware, wow, the prices on that went up. So I know some of the comments had said that the price of anything with Geometry Wars went up, but I have seen a few of these. This has Geometry Wars 1 on it, and that is Xbox Live Arcade Unplugged. Pick it up. If you like, the first Geometry Wars is still a fantastic game. It doesn't have sequence on it, but it has a much better arcade mode. The music's just as great, and the reason the arcade mode is better is because you randomly will get upgrades to your ship, so you'll start sending out a wave beam or a machine gun the longer you're alive. And is the original way I got experienced into the series, and it's just a lot of dumb fun. And I'm not a huge person with twin stick shooters or arcade games. At least I wasn't before Geometry Wars. So this still can be found pretty cheap. I know I found it at that swap meet several times for $10, $15, something like that. So if you can find it, if it's still not going super expensive and you want a hard copy of Geometry Wars, which once again, I wanted a physical copy of it 7 years ago and didn't know that existed. Okay, getting down to the last two here. Sorry, we only got 12 games this week. I'm trying to make sure the videos are different, as well as I just got back from a long weekend drive. So I am on fumes here and need to get this done and edited, which funnily enough, I actually had someone reach out to me wanting to be an editor for my channel. So that was cool. Probably won't take advantage of it because I don't make anything, but hey, I appreciate the moxie. I can enter in my my random clips too if you guys want.
Excellent.
Two more. So let me do this one right here. So this is one that I've heard of. It's been around a $30 to $40 game forever. I managed to pick it up for a little under $30 because the guy who sold it thought it was broken because there was staining on the disc, which I gotta tell you, I don't know if it's picking up on the camera, but staining on discs is normal. That does happen. Not all the time, but this particular staining does happen. And that game is Deadly Premonition. Now I've been debating picking this up. Once I looked into it more and saw that it was one of those so bad it's good games. It's an open world survival horror game that has there was a lot of polarization when it came out. You either really like this game or really hate it, and then as more and more cult status builds up for it, you get more and more people talking well about it. Generally, the consensus seems to be that just this game is beloved. But I don't know that for sure because I haven't popped it in. It's got a day-night cycle. It sounds like the NPCs are on a 24-hour cycle themselves, but it resets at the beginning of the next day. So if you miss an event, it doesn't go away forever, so you can get it. You just have to get there at the right time. Think of like Majora's Mask, that kind of thing. I think it can be good. And I've heard good things about it. When I talked to my buddy the other day who actually did recommend the game, he said it's don't go into it with such high expectations. It's not Mozart, but it's probably going to give me that closest feeling to that Resident Evil 1 vibe where it's got cheesy voice acting. It's just not all together there. Maybe a mix of that with taking away the seriousness of Silent Hill is what it sounds like. I haven't seen Twin Peaks, but I know I've heard some people say David Lynch-esque at times. So I'm looking forward to checking that one out. Definitely, if you can find it cheap. This one has not skyrocketed like some of the other ones have, but this is one to pick up. I think it hasn't skyrocketed because it's not one of those ones where you can find it for $10 and then resell it up high, buying it for $40 and then selling it for $50 or selling it for $80. That doesn't have as much of a cut as buying something for $10 and selling it for $80 or $10 or selling it for $50 even. Okay, and then the last game. I'm not a huge fan of racers. I love the Burnout series, and I know I saw a few videos talking about this one where it kind of has sort of that Burnout DNA, but not exactly. And that game is Split Second. And Split Second is pretty cool. It takes place in a fictional reality TV competition where each race you have different competitors, and then throughout the race you will gain, basically think of it like Mario Kart abilities, but it really is just the ability to set off fireworks or set off hazards in front of you with the blue, or you can set off a red hazard, which will do normally stage altering effects. So say like a building collapses or something else of that nature happens that then will wipe people out temporarily, and then they rejoin the battle. There's different game modes, ones where you eliminate the last person until you get down to one with a timer, other ones where you're trying to rack up more kills. Like, it's very Burnout adjacent without having the same feel and visceral pleasure of Burnout, where you don't get those speed boosts. Instead, you're having to drift a lot, but the drifting doesn't feel great. And some of the cars handle better than other ones, but overall, as far as racing game goes, this is exactly what I'm looking for in a racing game. So I very much enjoyed playing it. I would definitely put in some more time. Yet again, another game that has, I think, 12 stages or 10 stages for the campaign, which I like. And then as you play through it, you unlock stuff for the multiplayer. And my goodness, this game design is so refreshing. That's what I wanted. It's so weird how far we've come from just having, level-based games that don't waste your time. You play it to unlock stuff that then you can play with your friends. This really was the last generation before that. I know some of these games had DLCs, but you know what? You could buy the DLCs standalone, or you can buy a version of the game that had the DLC, and it's just not like that anymore, guys. So one of the tips I would say is, if you have some 360 games before the store goes down, put the disc in and make sure you get the updates. Yes, I know they have stated that the updates will stick around, but you never know. And you don't want to be scrambling it's free. The updates are free. Some of the things like the DLCs, looking into this video, I saw Dante's Inferno has some paid DLC, including one that has an alternate playing character. So now I have to be like, oh, should I go pick that up? I don't know. But anyways, that's what you get for this week, guys. That is another 12 games that you should pick up before the prices continue to go up and up and up and up. And I have picked up some of these games, and I've been picking up some of these games in the midst of this craziness. So it is possible. There are ways of finding it. You can find collectors cutting deals. You can find people that haven't marked them up yet. Or just be patient. Generally, it's kind of that dichotomy of, yes, be patient, but you got to buy it now. At the end of the day, if it's something you can afford, yes, get it. If it's going to hurt you, no, don't get it. If you're not going to be able to pay rent, those dang games aren't going to do it for you. But they sure are going to look nice on your shelf. Anyways, thank you guys so much. Thank you all for being here every week. Thank you to all the new subscribers. Let me know what kind of content do you guys want to see. I'm going to run out of 360 games eventually. So I'd love to know if you have suggestions or anything like that. I had someone suggest for me to do this on the PS3, which I am compiling some games on that, some of which are games that I wanted on the 360 that I couldn't get. So food for thought. If the game is available on both and you just want to have it to play it, if you're not trying to make money, once again, this is not to advise you to make money. I'm not expecting anyone to make anything on this. There's some games you can pick up on the PS3 that are also on the Xbox 360. So yes, anyways, it's been so nice getting a hold of you guys. Take care.